the re-entry journey.
What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating.
Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion.
Rebirth.
Intentional.
It's bigger than just walking down your probation and parole. It's changing your mindset, lifestyle, and never returning to prison again. It's the re-entry journey with Cardell Sims.
Welcome to the re-entry journey. I am your host, Cardell Sims, and today we have an amazing guest. I'm talking about today, our guest is a transformative figure with a profound journey. After serving 13 years in prison, he emerged with an unwavering commitment to making a positive impact. And for over 2 decades, our guest has dedicated his life to cognitive rehabilitation programming and embodying the essence of holistic life coaching, motivational speaking, and community activism. His enduring belief that every individual possesses a unique purpose drives his mission to guide others in discovering their own. Today, our guest is none other than Mr. Andrew Hackett-Bey. He's out here empowering lives, one purpose at a time. Welcome to the re-entry journey, Hackett-Bey.
Thank you for having me, Cardell.
Oh man, it's a great honor to have you as a guest on the re-entry journey. So tell us about your life before prison.
Well, I'm a native of the Los Angeles, California area, West Covina to be exact. And I grew up pretty much like most of the people in my community, single parent mother, have 5 siblings. And so we grew up in there. We had to be honest, I had a great childhood in terms of my mother providing the type of lifestyle that can expose me to be exposed to different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
and what led you down the path that resulted into your incarceration?
Well, I know it sounds cliche, but it was not having my father around. And so since my father wasn't around and I grew up with real tight brothers, and my brothers got caught into the culture, which was gangism. And I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to be a part of what they were a part of. And that's what got me there and being a part of that. And
a lot of people don't understand, we're going back. So you grew up in California, LA.
Correct.
And a lot of people, I'm talking to some people not too long ago, and they don't really understand, because the reason why I'm saying this, because you're saying, your older brothers in the gang culture. A lot of people that's not from LA or from California don't understand how much their area is influenced by the gang culture.
Oh man, the gang culture is, I hate to say it like this, but just to do truth telling is a fundamental concept. And what makes it so intricate is it's marked by territories. And unfortunately, if you're growing up in that area, you really don't have a choice of what you being a part and not being a part. A lot of people like to say, well, you didn't have to be a part of that. You didn't have to be a part of that. But in reality, I had to live here. And having to live there, especially as a young African-American male, you get tried, you get tested. And so you just become part of it. And, a lot of them are your friends. You grew up with them. So, it's easy to be persuaded into that.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, because it's everywhere. And so someone who don't grow up in that, like, this is to the max. Like, we was talking earlier before we got started recording stuff. We was talking earlier just about how, I'm from the area around Kansas City, east of Kansas City, about an hour. And, we was talking about like the influence of gang culture that it had in Kansas City, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. And you see like little other cities that have gang culture but it's not to the extent where this is like everyday life in California. Like, it's just different. It's just, you got to be a part of it, like you said.
Yeah, and you know, I think what makes it persuasive too is everybody needs a tribe, and so you know when this is a part of your tribe, these are young people that's going through the same things that you're going through. So what they do, you know, you end up being a part of it. You end up sharing your fears. You end up sharing your happiness. You end up sharing troubled times. And that tribe, because we come from that type of upbringing, you know, can relate. So then these become your brothers. So it even transcends just the gangism. It turns into a family.
Right. Exactly. And so you served 13 years in prison. What was your experience like being incarcerated?
Well, it was twofold. So when I
Okay.
committed my crime, you know, I always say I committed a crime. I didn't catch a case. How do you catch a case? It doesn't fall out the sky. So you got to commit the crime. When I committed my crime, I committed my crime out of town. So since I committed my crime out of town, I had to go out of town to do my time, and so it was hurtful. It was illuminating, and it definitely was stressful. But to be honest, it was the best experience that I had in my life.
Mm. And when you say the best experience that you had in your life, explain that, because there might be someone hearing that like, man, what do you mean prison is the best experience you've had in your life?
Right, right. And I can understand what that, you know, would cause somebody to think that. But, you know, during my time of incarceration, I grew up without a father, and I had great mentors in there. It was guys in there who had been there since the 60s and 70s and really cared about my growth and development. So when I'll be walking the yard, they'll be like, hey, young brother, you ain't got a book in your hand. You need to get a book in your hand. And then not only that, why I call it one of the greatest experiences of my life is because, you know, as I look back, it taught me how to be a man. It taught me how to rely on myself. It taught me to read. You know, I had, you know, I was what you would call a functioning illiterate. And a functioning illiterate is a person who, it doesn't mean that they can't read, but they're just not reading up to their age. And so I was in there and I got with some great guys who pushed reading and pushed trying to do something for myself while I was in here, that I began to love learning. You know, when I was going to school outside, you know, teachers were mean. You know, a lot of people don't like to say it, but I had some mean teachers. I had teachers who really didn't care about my growth and development. For instance, I think I was in the 3rd grade and the teacher told me I wasn't going to live to be 18. You know, that's something traumatic to tell a child.
Oh,
And
that's
so
that's wild right there, boy. That's wild.
that
That's
is,
wild.
man. And so, you know, I took those things to heart because teachers are supposed to be someone who cared about you. That's how I grew up. So I say that to say when I got there, it was actually guys that cared about me. And I know that sometimes we watch movies and stuff and we, you know, we see the rapists, we see the bad people, but there are people there that just made poor choices and are there, but this is their community service of giving back. And that's my experience. And so that's why I said it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I had the chance to, real quick, I had the chance to start, me and a group of guys had the chance to start the first NAACP in the prison chapter. We got a chance to start a Toastmasters group. And so Toastmasters is a speaking guild. And so what that allowed was to teach others how to communicate. And we found out once you started communicating between two men, it lowered the level of violence in the institution. So I became a person of character while I was in there.
Mm. And I was just about to ask, you know, how did you cope and work to better yourself during that time?
Self-improvement. I found out that the word education, if you look at the etymology of the word, it's Latin and it's called educo, and it means to educate from within. And so I started to educate from within. I started working on myself. I started working out. I had gotten overweight. I started to really having what is called self-esteem. And so those key components allowed me to fulfill things I believe in there, which set the precedent to what I'm doing out here.
Okay. And what inspired you to dedicate your life to helping others upon your release?
So what inspired me to do that was when I got incarcerated. Let me start from the beginning. I did 13 years in prison, but my original sentence was 26 years. I had 10 years. I was facing a federal charge because I committed bank robbery.
Okay.
So I had 10 years federal, and I had 16 state. And so I was fighting both of those cases. But in the midst of that, I just had 2 children. My daughter was a month. My daughter was 1.5, and my son was a month. And I had to watch them grow up through pictures. And so I wanted to come home. I wanted to come home and be a real dad. I wanted to be an active dad. And I knew the most important thing that I can give them was education. I couldn't give them money because I was locked in there. I couldn't give them time, unfortunately. But what I could do was educate myself enough to come home and be a productive, active, and involved father. And so those are the things that pushed me.
Okay. I see that. And so,
and I'm real quick, Cardell, and I'm gonna tell you, hurt has a way of doing 2 things. It has a way of transforming you into greatness or destroying you into nothing. And so I channeled that hurt, man. I was hurt, man. I had a daughter that was 1.5, and I couldn't really fathom, because the gangs don't tell you that part. They don't tell you the part where you go away and you do all this time and there's no support. They don't tell you the part where they try to copulate with your children's mother. They don't tell you those other parts. They don't tell you about the lonely days and the no letters and so on and so forth. So, I had to really take a grasp of that also while being in Ohio while my children were in California. So
that's the crazy part right there. That's it. That you're talking about California and Ohio, the distance, with the distance.
Yeah.
So it ain't like you're going to be able to get the visits, the physical visits, like you would if you was in California.
Yeah, I had a great mother. She ended up passing away, but she visited me every year. She supported me every year. And, it really made me think about some of my life choices, because, we always talking about keeping it real. Young people always talking about keeping it real. I'm going to keep it real, keep it 100. But I wasn't keeping it 100 with her. I wasn't keeping it 100 to the person that supported me, rain, sleet, or snow. And so that made me reevaluate my relationships, because if I can't keep it real with a woman who had heart surgery and took a bus to Ohio penitentiary, to a level 4 penitentiary to visit a degenerate son, then there's an issue. And I needed to address those issues.
Right. And can you talk about the cognitive rehabilitation program that you developed?
Yeah, so I have a cognitive rehabilitation program called the Marathon, right? And I named it after the great poet Nipsey Hussle, because I had a chance to meet him while I was out, and we were going to do some things, but unfortunately he was murdered. But he was a community activist. I know they paint him as a gang member, but he was more than that. He was a father, he was a brother, but he was a community activist. But he made a lot of sense. Life is like a marathon. So the cognitive rehabilitation therapy that we use is, a lot of times just because a person did one crime, we want to count them out and say that they're nothing and they can't do anything. But that's just a portion of the behavior. So what we do is we try to reinstate that with healthy things, healthy thinking. And we mold our program around that person, assess that person. We mold our program around that person using the fundamental skills of, how you grew up and what's healthy and not healthy. And we don't get into good and bad. We leave good and bad to the creator. And so, we get into what's healthy. We expose them to what's healthy. We formulate a plan for them that works in the grasp of who they are, but also leaving expectation, giving them expectation again, to dream, to wonder. You know, one thing I found out when I was in prison was I had a chance to dream again. You know, I could see past those 4 street blocks, and I had a chance to be inspired by what I could do when I got out. So I want to give that to them. And so that's what we do in that program. We inspire them, we motivate them, but above all, we hold them accountable.
I like that. I like that. And so what I'm tripping on the fact that you said when you was in prison, you was able to dream again. I never really thought about that, but I think, you know, I've been to prison 5 times. You know what I'm saying? My last prison bid, I was federal prison, and that's kind of when I really took accountability. They handed me that indictment paper, the United States versus Cardell Sims, had conspiracy charges, a whole bunch of different charges, gang activity. And when they handed me the indictment paper, I really wasn't tripping off the time because I had faced these years before, like 10, 15 of life. I faced this, you know, I looked at them numbers before, so I really wasn't concerned with that. I was concerned at the fact that it was the United States of America instead of the state of Missouri. And so at that point in time, I asked myself, like, man, why you keep finding yourself in these situations? Because at this point in time, I'm 35 years old. And I've been, from the age of 15, I'd have been in juvenile detention center, 2 foster homes, county jail, in and out county jail, and in and out prisons. You know, I'm like, man, you know, man, you're 35. Why you keep finding yourself in these situations? The only answer I came up with, like, you keep putting yourself in these situations. You know, and so from that point, I kind of made an oath to myself that I'd be better whenever I was going to get out than I would standing there at that present moment. So I just started educating myself all the way around the board. Knowledge itself, but the fact that now when I'm looking at it, that was my moment where, like you said, in prison, you was able to dream again. That was my I'm dreaming again moment. And then my last incarceration was basically me provide myself with all the tools that I can possibly can to be able to make this dream come to reality.
And then, you know, even when you're talking in there, you hear guys talking about, man, when I get out, I'm going to do this. When I get out, I'm going to do that. Because they got hope again. They dream again. They're working out to do it. And, you know, the deepest thing that I found out too, Cardell, was I was incarcerated way before I got inside the penitentiary. You know, I was incarcerated by a mental incarceration. And a lot of people, they look at that and they say, you know, this incarceration, these guys are incarcerated. But it's more people incarcerated on the street than there is in institutions. They're incarcerated by body weight. They're incarcerated by their looks. They're incarcerated by clothes, all material things that they're incarcerated with. So all I really did was put bricks to the mental incarceration that I already was suffering there. I couldn't see past a 4-block radius, you know, and as I look at my peers, you know, you think about it, you know, we buy these cars, we put rims on them, only to drive around with beat bumping, boom, 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 in the 4-block radius. And there's a whole world out here, brother. The whole world out here, man. You know that, man. You know, I love that background that you have with that airplane, because to me that reads sky is the limit. You know, the sky is the limit. Get on. Let's fly out here. Let's get out of here. You know, I had guys that, you know, that I grew up with, good friends, who wouldn't drive 45 minutes, 30 minutes outside of the neighborhood to go see, to the mall, to the movies. They were just trapped in that little circumference. And so, you know, it's the same thing that they say about the goldfish. They say the goldfish can get as big as this big. But the reason why it doesn't get big like this is because the bowl is so small. And it only grows to the width of the bowl. And so that's what happens when you get in there. You don't have people to expose you to things that can broaden your mind and broaden, you know, what you want to be.
Right. That is true. And I see that you embody holistic life coaching in your work. What does that approach involve?
Oh man, that approach, I think that is our most valuable asset. You know, I've been out, I actually just celebrated 10 years of being out. And the beauty of this is I have an excellent relationship with my sentencing judge, you know, Judge Nancy Russo, Cuyahoga Common Pleas Court. And so she runs a reentry program, and me and her have developed the greatest relationship. And so I say that to say, as I was going through my reentry process, I got a chance to see what matters. And so I add the holistic piece is because fundamentally, before I get you to try to meet your destination, I need you to be a good human being. I need you, respect life. I need you to smell the trees. I need you to hug a tree. And it's not as much as, 1960s snap, snap. But it is, we are something, I believe, inside that's bigger than the flesh. You need to learn how to love people, treat people with respect. And the holistic lifestyle, what that brings to them is the inner peace. A lot of times you don't get the growth because the soil on the inside is not good for growing. And so what I add the holistic piece is, which is, getting you to be a great human being, getting you to be kind, getting you to say good morning. Those little fundamental things that I think you and I grew up with, we didn't, it was funny because, not funny in the sense of laughter, but funny in the sense of absurdity is, in the community now, Miss Johnson, that's been living in our community for 50 years, feels threatened by the young people. When we were young,
Right.
Miss Johnson came and she had her groceries, we knew to help her. Even if we was partaking in a little smoke, here come Miss Johnson, put that up.
Put that up, right.
Yeah, now Miss Johnson in the community, unfortunately, is called a snitch. And
Miss Johnson knew the respect was there.
Yes. And then she's bringing her groceries. Guys are standing in the middle of the sidewalk, and she got to go across the grass. She 80 years old. She's been there all her life. So, I got to get these, with our programming, we want to get these people into being kind and understand that being a good human being is valued.
Right. All right. It sure is, because, man, and you start to see it more and more every day as each day goes by. The value of a good human being. A lot of people don't even have not one good human being in their life or in their circle around them.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, that is
that's
crazy.
I always say, Cardell, man, they was talking about success the other day, and they were like, your success, man, I see you come from this, and you got this and you got that. I know you feel successful. And I said, I'm successful because I'm a good husband, man. I'm successful because I'm a good son now. I'm successful because I'm a good father and a brother. And those mean more to me in the verges of success than anything, because I was here to be that, not necessarily here to make a lot of money.
Right, exactly. And that's the success part. I'm not who I was.
Right.
I'm a totally different person. Like, and I live for that. I was on the phone call with a close family friend of mine, and he was just talking about, he just got married, and in his background is somewhat messed up as far as when it comes to relationships and cheating and things like that. But I was telling him, I was like, man, when I got out of prison 6 years ago, I wasn't just, my goal wasn't just to not go back to prison. I said, when I started changing my thinking and everything about me, I changed everything about me. So when I told myself, so when I got married, my thing was to be the best man, best husband, best father I can be. Is it easy as far as the relationship and the marriage? No, you got good days, you're gonna have tough days, But one thing I can say is I'm not out there cheating, and I hold an honor to that. Coming from where I'm from, and that's just a part of the change in me that I made. I didn't change, quit selling dope. I just ain't one of the person that I'm just gonna quit selling dope so I don't catch no more cases, but continue all the other behaviors that I had that didn't make no sense, because eventually I would go back to selling dope because I'm keeping all the other behaviors. So yeah, I had to change everything. You got to change everything that was detrimental to your lifestyle to take pride in being a good father, take pride in being a good husband, a great man, being a good. I'm just now learning how to be a good son in a sense, you know, because you know I've been doing in and out of prisons for the past 20 something years, half of my life in and out of prison. So I had to really, when I started doing right, I had to really repair and rebuild a lot of relationships and learn how to be this new person, and at the same time be the same person in a sense to my family members, like, you know. So man, you do have to change everything about you in a sense and work on everything about you on the inside, most definitely. So what are some of the biggest challenges facing that formerly incarcerated people face when when re-entering into society that you've seen on your end?
I think one of the biggest challenges that they face is trying to be normal. I see a lot of people who get out and they think, you know, I'm out, I got to live this way to get like this, when necessarily I don't think you have to do that. I think adjustment, you know, I always say the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. We can always get better. But what they don't value, and this goes back to what I said originally, is the productive things that they did in prison that made them better. You get guys who worked out every day. Now they don't work out anymore. Then now they smoking and now they drinking. And then you get guys who don't value me time anymore. So now, you know, they're trying to go with their homies and get back what they quote unquote felt that they lost. And so I think those are the biggest challenges. And then not being able to establish a different social circle. You know, this is my homie. We grew up since 1985. That's cool. But is this a healthy relationship? And the things that they struggle from is really building and establishing with, and I say establishing coupled with dedication to what it is to really build healthy relationships.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% on with everything that you said. What advice would you have for other formerly incarcerated individuals who want to make a positive impact but don't know where to start?
I would suggest that they start within. The things that are outside you are a manifestation of what's inside you. So the work really starts from within. I would also let them know that reentry is what everybody experiences when they go into another field of study. Does that make sense? So a lot of times we like to coin that term just to a person leaving incarceration, but everybody's going through reentry. I'm 46 years old. I don't know what it is to be a 46-year-old. So I'm re-entering into a new form of life. And so I would tell them to start from within, keep the fundamentals. You know, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to keep it real. Make your bed up every day. Make your bed up every day. You know, and I say that because those are the little things that you do to get to the great things. So you got to build a foundation. Make your bed up every day. Get up early, just like you did in the joint. Work out. Keep that workout. Workout builds focus. It allows you to release some of the negative stress. But above all, have faith in yourself and know that you are enough. You are enough. And everything that you did, you know, I know people that committed crimes that some people would think was crazy, but they were good guys. They were good guys. That's the crime that they did, yeah. But they were still, it was something that gave me stuff and looked out for me and everything. So, you know, I don't believe a person could be 100% of one thing. We all have a little bit of skeletons in our closet and what we could do and what we do. But my thing is to encourage them to say, man, you are enough. You need to work on yourself and on the inside. And once you get everything on the inside clean, all your dreams and aspirations will manifest itself on the outside.
That, I mean, me and you had the same thought concept because name of my program that I run in prison, I run in one prison physically in Missouri. I run it in 2 states virtually. The name of my program is called On the Inside Reentry Academy, and it's a twofold thing. Reentry starts on the inside of prison and self. It's a personal development. It's a personal development. It's a knowledge of self course. To me, the most important thing is you have to change a lot of things to get this certain knowledge about self and work on self before, and that's going to allow you to get everything else in order. So what you're saying, I most definitely totally agree. Like you got to, you have to challenge some beliefs. You had to start set expectations for yourself. You had to start prioritizing the certain values, and then, aligning these values with how you move in life. You got to, yes, a lot of things. So we're definitely on that same page and that same thought process, because I'm there as well, and I know why we're on that same thought process as far as starting within. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but I want to ask you another question: is what do you think, or what has been your proudest accomplishments in your reentry and community activism work?
My proudest accomplishment in this work is making my mother proud before she passed.
Okay.
My mom was the mom in the neighborhood that if you were hungry, you can come over. First of all, you was going to church. That's who she was. If your friend, I don't care if your name was Mad Dog, Devil, Loke, Crazy Toe, you were going to go to church with Juanita Hackett-Bey, And so I say that to say that my proudest moments was when she saw me doing this service, and she told me that she was proud of me. And so that's my proudest moment. And with that aspiration and that recognition, that empowers me to go out, and that empowers me to help. Another great accomplishment in doing this work is I've had several guys who have went on to do extremely great things, from getting in tech to getting great jobs, to going back and healing their families. Those are some of my great accomplishments. But however, I think that one of the ones that really had an impact outside of my mom was helping a guy get back with his family. He had 3 children, a strange girlfriend, and they ended up getting back together. And they're doing very well in terms of financial, but they're doing exceedingly well in relationship. They're raising children as a family nuclear, and I think a lot of not having a family nuclear is what leads young people as well as older people into those type of lives that are unhealthy.
Okay. I was going to ask you something, because I heard you say your mother was had the Bay on her name as well.
Yeah, she had the Bay at the end of her name.
So you was born with the Bay.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty much born with the Bay.
Okay. How many generations have? I'm curious now, because I'm wondering, how far does the Bay go back? Did your mother's parents had the Bay on their name as well?
No. My father is the one who introduced me into the thinking. And then as we began to grow and I began to talk to her and we'd be able to go stuff, and I begin to explain things to her. And then, we started working together. The beauty thing about my mom was born in a small town in the Delta called Mount Bayou, Mississippi. And so she migrated from Mount Bayou to St. Louis and then into California. So she kept she was, had that Christian mentality, but she was also able to embrace the Afrocentric piece. And so before she passed, she said, I could be a Bay too, and fell into the concept of that, and started living that before she passed. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I know the Bay. that's what when I said earlier that that thinking from within, how we have a connect on that because I'm a Bay too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Bay too. I've been a Bay for a long, long time. So yeah, I was about to hit you with the who made you. Who made you.
Hey,
Yeah, I was about to hit you with
gonna give you the 5, brother.
yeah, I was gonna hit you with the who made you.
Right.
Just to let you know. But yeah, I stay in my circle 7, man, constantly. Because that's the best makeup to understand, within inconstancy of man, instability of man, and them chapters and things like that, pinnacle of wisdom. Like these, when you dig into these chapters, you start to understand what it's really about. So yeah, if you see my circle 7, it ain't got no more writing space in it. So many notes.
That's I even some of that,
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, but
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and so even with with the prophet had told us, don't burden my Moors, and the beauty of when he said that was because he understood that being a Bay is mental, and in that mentality, it's a hard thing to grasp. The journey of a Bay is an arduous journey. Because like you said with the circle 7, every time I read the circle 7, I find and discover something new. I get a new inspiration. I get a new process after I read, that and the one-on-ones. So
yeah, and the one-on-ones, right? Yeah, you unlock them. Yeah, you unlock it all. I have them all. I'm just in the one-on-ones. I was in the one-on-ones last night, actually. Yeah, last night. I'm in it all every night. Yes, last night was a holy day. So in our area where I'm at, they don't have a temple. And so I'll be listening to the Grand Temple, the Grand National Temple on Friday night, Brother Jones Bay. But I had to say the prophet is the reason. When I first went to prison, I was so wild. I had an old guy pull up on me. He was like, "Look here, man, you are not going to make it out." I was 23 years old. I had a 19-year sentence. Walked into one of the worst prisons in the United States at the time. Probably the worst most prison in Missouri, most definitely. It was called the Walls. The nickname was called the Bloodiest 48 Acres. And they had a sign when you walked in there on the wall written in red letters that said, "Leave all your dreams and hopes behind." That's when you walked in there. And after about, it was like survival of the fittest. Racism, whites use one yard, black use another yard. We had an upper and lower yard, but it was just a lot of tensions. But in the prisons where, you had to have the books around you, encyclopedias, and you're wearing your state coats in the summertime.
Right.
I had an old guy pull up on me. He's like, "Man, you ain't gonna make it out of here alive, man. Moving at the rate." And he's like, "I want you to come somewhere with me Friday. I'm gonna pull up on you, take you somewhere with me." I'm like, "All right, I could play basketball." And he was an older guy, but he could play basketball, so that's where our connection was. And I said, "All right." So he took me up to the temple, Friday night service, and they got to talking about the knowledge itself. And then at this particular time, I always remember it because this is what caught my attention about it. It was two things. The first Friday night service I went through, they was talking about the Elihu's lesson, unity of life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, what? And it made sense because it was going into, you know, the higher self and the lower self, you know, and how the lower self, you know what I'm saying, was, you know, how they was getting compared to the apple. Yeah, it looks good for the eye, but it's not good for the soul. You know, and started talking about, you know, what the higher self represented and what the lower self represented, and then it started to make sense. Like I can see that because I know that happens inside of me. So we was leaving. He's like, "What you think?" I'm like, I said, "Yeah, man, it makes sense to say, I want you to come to Sunday school with me on Sunday." This is where he's like, "This is where you really gonna learn some stuff." So when we went to Sunday school, they just happened to be talking about nationality.
Right.
Now I started listening. I said, "Man, what?" And they did it. When they started breaking down nationality, I started coming back. Probably after like 4 months, I proclaimed my nationality. Man, I done been the chairman. I done been the muftee. I done been the sheik. I done been it all. But yeah, I'm still firm. Every time I ran in and out, state or fed, I always make sure I went to the temple every Friday. I always make sure I played my part and my role in the temple. I wasn't the type of person that was I was a strong I was strong about the temple. So in the temples that I was involved in, it wasn't no shady dealings or none of that. Like we really stood on what the prophet. And if you was in, like, I done been in temple wars, getting rid of the dirty Moors, replacing and stuff like that. Learning how to organization, Robert rules of order, all these things I learned from being a Moor, man. So yeah, that I think like a Moor, I move like a Moor, I seek knowledge like a Moor, I conduct myself as, you know, as a Moor. Knowledge itself is big to me. Know thyself and thy Father God Allah. Man, what's to say? The possession itself, the knowledge of He who creates thee. What else is there more man need to know?
Right. And that goes to my holistic piece, you know, the omnipotence in man. You
Exactly.
know, there exists inside of a man something that words can describe, and I like to consider it resilience. The ability to bounce back. No other animal or anything on this planet has the ability to show resilience in a way that the human being, when he knows who he is, can do with the
Exactly.
human.
The human.
And so I say that, yeah. And so I say that to say, you know, that goes back to what we said in the beginning, man. I mean, why you? Why did he say that to you? You know, and this is the guy, he probably would have been in there for the worst. But what a mentor. What a person to speak like that right there. He spoke breath into you. That's a great mentor. You know, despite what his crime was, but that's a great mentor. The first man that ever told me that I was something was a brother by the name of Jonathan Bey in Mansfield Correctional, which is something like the prison that you just spoke about. And he told me one time I was feeling bad. He said, "Man, put your head up. You are a god amongst insects." And I said, "What?" You know, I'm from LA. I'm like, "What? What do that mean? What do that mean? What do you know?" And told me about the omnipotence in man and demonstrated on it, you know, and we built on it. And so I say that to say, man, while I had a prison, and I know that, you know, a lot of people's experiences are different, but in mine, man, I had great mentors. I met great guys that put value in me to love me as a man. Now, I had a lot of women in my life who, you know, validated me, but it's nothing like a man giving another man knowledge and believing in him and giving him the strength to move on and be forward. So I had great mentors in there, man. I had great mentors in there. And it's my duty to go out here and demonstrate for those that took time to speak the holy breath into me.
Exactly. And that is the truth. My mentor in the federal, my mentor, he was one of the one of the sergeant muftis of one of the big temples back in the 80s. They was Moors, but they was the branch that kind of broke away from the you know what I'm saying, the founding branch. They was out of St. Louis. But I used to hear stories about them when I was in state because they had their own temple. Like they, oh man, them was Temple 1 and this is Temple 43, and I'm like, what's the difference? They were like, oh, they do it different than Temple 1, and the Temple 1 was just more militant.
Right.
They were just more militant. That's all. That's what it boiled down to. But they were so militant that they had to break away from the branch, the regular founding branch of the Moor, and they end up. They was out of St. Louis. They ended up connecting with the Moors over in Morocco. They was going over there. They was building a pipeline, and they was doing everything. Federal government got involved with them, started investigating them, shut them down. But the chairman, the Sergeant Mufti was my mentor when I was in Leavenworth from Federal Prison. He used to give me so much knowledge, so many different books, and he used to have me on point. He ain't never getting out. Like he's in there. I think got like 5 lives in the feds. Like he's through. But he was like, man, he's like, you got to go out there and do it this way. He was like, I'm telling you, he's like, this is how we were doing it. He's like, this is where we messed up and just things like that. He's like, man, but if you go out there and focus on it, that's why I really built my program called On the Inside, because of that personal development, because of the knowledge of self, because you have to tap in. Like I said, man, you have to tap into these things. Like as the what to say, this is the seed. This is what's going to unfold with the bud. You know what I'm saying? These things was unfold with the bud. And, you know, and you got to understand you got these talent, and you giving these actions of the soul, you just utilizing them in the wrong way. What happens when you start educating yourself and now you don't have that 4-block radius thought no more? Now you exercising your thinking to another level. You exercise your thinking to another level. Now you start exercising your reasoning. Now you start reasoning with, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, am I really a product of my environment? Let me really think about this. Now, I done seen some people from where I'm from that didn't take the routes that I took, and they living good. They ain't went through no prison or none of that. They educated themselves. They, you know what I'm saying? And they stay resilient. I knew their mama grew up on drugs like your mama grew up on drugs. Some of them parents don't even have parents. They never took the route that you did, and you used the product in your environment because your mother was on crack. She was 16 when you grew up gangbang. You used all this, and it cost you 5 times running in and out of prison. And now I'm playing catch up with them, and they ain't never committed a crime, and they came from the same conditions that I would. You know what I'm saying? You start understanding a lot of things different through the education. Start building yourself up on that rock of understanding that is talked about. You know, and so these things happen inside. They don't happen on the outside. These are things that happen inside. And this comes from knowledge of self, you know what I'm saying? Understanding, knowing your strengths, knowing your weakness, knowing them foes, understanding them lessons that you're going to have to learn through many different scenarios. So, man, yeah, that's definitely embedded in me every day in every walk of life. And it's important. And that's why I named it On the Inside, because you have to start it inside of prison, but at the same time, while you're in prison, you have to start with self. You had to start with self. And a lot of times, the first part of that is accountability. Like you have to take accountability, you know, whether it's saying, you know, I've been through a lot of trauma in my life. I need to go down here and see if I can get some kind of counseling or talk to some type of therapist or something like that. That's accountability.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
sometimes I think people get accountability confused of just saying, you know, yeah, I'm wrong and stuff like that. But for us, me, and especially when we train and talk, not to cry and hold everything in, a big accountability for us is saying, I need help outside of myself. I can't do this alone.
Yeah. And one of the two things that fundamentally we do in our process, one is we teach them about truth telling. And the beauty about truth telling, you only got to be truthful to one person. That's you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then after that, we do a SWOT analysis. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And administering that truth telling with those 5 principles, and you know the power of the 5.
Yeah.
Then you can be like your brother, and I know this will be controversial, I don't know, like your brother Jesus, and heal and go and feed the sick and take care of the homeless and go over there and heal people from afflictions, you know, the disease in the mind. That's you do that service. And so, you know, this is the work, man. This is the work.
Yeah, that's the work. That's the work. I don't know if it's only controversial for those who don't know, who haven't tapped in, because me and you both know what was said. What I have done, all men can do. What I am, all men shall be. So that's only controversial for those who don't know.
Yeah. You tried to heal like Jesus. I heal like Jesus. You know, I saved like I got the heart of Jesus, man. You know, and so and I practiced what he practiced during that time, which was the way. I practiced the way, and I do it more by my lifestyle. Am I perfect? Who said being perfect was a prerequisite to being a great healer and greatness? There's no perfection, not the prerequisite. What the prerequisite is: love, truth, freedom. You know the
freedom and justice.
And justice, brother. That's what we give the true justice, not the justice that other put on the true justice. And the true justice is that everybody has fallen short. And being compassionate enough to still work with that individual. That's the true justice. Forgiveness, compassion.
And so one more question, and I ask this to each and every guest that I have on the reentry journey. And this question is, if you had one word to describe your journey, what would that one word be and why?
If I had one word to describe my journey, what would it be? I think the one word that would describe my journey is redemption. And why is because I'm getting the opportunity to show others that no matter what the circumstances that you've been through or that you're going through, you can be of great service. You can be of great service, and that you have value, and that it's important for us to give back in that way. So redemption allows me to come back and give a second chance of leading young people into a healthy lifestyle versus the unhealthy lifestyle of gangism. You know, I've unfortunately have inspired young men to do things that were not healthy and not in their best interests because others did it to me. And so now I have the opportunity to go and give back and apologize to, you know, I had to make amends to it. We call them little homies. My little homie in LA, because of the things I empowered him, put him in the penitentiary. He was 18 years old. That was not my job to tell somebody else's child to do some things that were unbecoming of him. That was not my job. That was the greatest disservice that I could ever do. To tell a young man to do a thing and inspire him to do a thing that will lead him into a path that he knows nothing about. You know, I want nobody doing that to my child. So the redemption piece allows me the opportunity to go into juvenile facilities, to go into foster homes, to go into these different places and make a difference and bring out the greatness in them than to go out there and lead another young man to destruction. So that's what it is for me.
Redemption. And how can the people who are tuning in to this episode, if they want to get in contact with you, possibly book you to speak or get your programs involved, how can they get in contact with you?
They can reach me at ahbcoaching.com. They can also, I'm on Instagram, AHB Professional Coaching, Andrew Life Changer. And so they can reach me through those platforms on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
You got a website?
I don't think it's Twitter now. Is it X?
X, yeah, you got this X now. Yeah, it might be something else next year. Yeah, they done moved to X.
Yeah, you can go to my website at ahbcoaching.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
More, I appreciate you jumping on this call, jumping on the podcast, sharing your story, sharing your knowledge, and sharing the information along with your journey with our guests. Anything that I can do, as far as partnership, mentor, or any information I can provide you with, feel free to reach out to me. LinkedIn, wherever you want to reach out to me, man. I'm always open to networking and collaborating, seeing how partner up and expand the movement, or be a part of some that someone else has going on, that I can, do a little work and share my expertise and experiences. That's all I'm all about, is work, making an impact. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I do a tour. We've been doing a tour where we've been having successful formerly incarcerated individuals going back in as a team host. We've been hosting 4-day workshops inside of institutions across the country: financial literacy, mental health and wellness, vision, goal setting, entrepreneurship, life skills, soft skills, parenting, many different topics. We go in there for about a full day, from like 8 in the morning to 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And when we walk out of there, man, we feel so good, and the impact that we make on the inside, man, it's just good. It feels good to be able to go in there and give those the game and the knowledge of what it, and the hope, and let them see what we're out here doing that they don't ever show. So anytime we got any open days and we're close to you in your area, I'll be reaching out to you, see if you want to come on in, and do that.
Yeah, definitely. And if you like I said, this is a big world. So if it's somewhere outside of my area, they made this beautiful thing called planes. I will fly, drive, or something. But I just want to thank you, Cordell, for providing a platform for people like me to be able to come and speak and let them know that there are people on the ground doing the work. So thank you for making a platform like this that allows not just myself, but other brothers that are in the struggle, that are trying to give back and are giving back this opportunity.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. I just want to show the world that there's a lot of us that is out here and has made the change and doing great things, man, and have powerful stories, and they need to be heard and shared. So thank you once again for joining the Reentry Journey. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. This is another episode of the Reentry Journey. And like I always say, for those of you on the inside that's tuning in, don't let the limitation of your background reduce the height of your potential. Outgrow what you were born into. I am Cordell Sims, and this is another episode of the Reentry Journey. What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating.
Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion.
Rebirth.
Intentional.
It's bigger than just walking down your probation and parole. It's changing your mindset, lifestyle, and never returning to prison again. It's the Reentry Journey with Cordell Sims.